4-9. Trying to sleep while moving. Simone Forti dancing in her sleep. She wrote about this. I think about her when I turn from side to side. Lifting my own weight is a place to explore. Abundance is one place and scarcity in another. How does scarcity and abundance fill one space? How to be supported by empty space? How to fill scarcity? She was closer to the middle last night. I think I felt her head brush above the right side of my navel. She is getting bigger. All of the moving is a sign of that. The top is getting heavy. I used to draw a lot on paper, and at one point I lived in France. Cooking became like drawing there. I spent my weekends collecting old things like plates and glasses and linens. I had to buy a larger suitcase before I left. The last series of drawings I made were line drawings based on the table. The table has always been a form that reminds me of the pelvic floor. The pelvis and the table are part of the same family. Both architecture for potential generosity. When I moved in with Jack, he already had a table. Mine sat in pieces in the cellar, and it wasn't until recently we decided to switch the tables. I pulled out the pieces and reassembled it. I pulled out dishes and stacked them in the middle of the table in preparation for setting soon after. The table needed to be shifted slightly to the right. I was preparing food when Hannah, Kyle, and Jack went to move it. The whole table collapsed and all the dishes came crashing down. Trying to find a way to map the experience of feeling a baby inside. Trying to find the experience via movement. To write with movement rather than words. Jack building the new table to write in the little room. Simone again. Dancing while speaking. Her writing on news animations. Their connection to her father. Mistaking pulses. Dancers yesterday feeling relaxed by movement task. The involved intimacy within the details and subtleties of listening. Putting my hands in a position that I don't mistaken my pulse for the babies. 3:31. Spending an hour on the phone with healthcare representatives, trying to understand the bills we were accountable for. Time I have to work to pay for prenatal fee, insurance coverage of maternity care for the in-network and the out-of-network, inclusion and exclusion. I'm troubled by the exclusionary rates and misleading language. The language affects the body. I am noticing the weight of fluid, the weight of her being, lack of verbal language informing my body. I notice the weight of fluid, the weight of her being, her body informing mine, thinking about geography and the human regard of nature, the things that can't be seen. I kept track of birds. I counted, I noticed. I eventually started to feel a flutter inside of me. How the bird's wings flutter when it lands or takes off from a branch reminds me of the feeling of her inside of me. 4:7. The sacrum stretching, sit bones down, the pubic bone stretching away from the sacrum, the belly, chest, shoulders. The sacrum is connected to a rope attaching to an island. Its potential to be far away from understanding. Betsy and Chris were two Hawaiian women scouted to sing Japanese songs. They sang without knowing what the words meant. 2:15. Dustin's music. Obsessively trying to feel for baby's movement. Going to Dustin's performance. Dustin playing solo. He plays barefoot so he can press the different pedals more with ease. He was sitting low on an ottoman, thinking about trees that lined around a large lake, climbing on top of the swan boat with Yutaka, being in love. Music a part of that. Yutaka and Dustin's friendship. The baby swimming in the middle of my body. Japan swimming in the middle of the ocean. Japan now in a state of devastation. Dustin's music sounding like geography. Home, a womb, crying while listening, thinking about loss. Dustin's music challenging loss. Dustin moving back to Japan. Dustin and Yutaka's list of Japanese phrases of what to say if I got lost walking in Tokyo. Is there a walk that defines a memory of Japan? 2:23. Yesterday, male and female cardinal. The day before, blue jay and mourning dove sitting in tree. Also a sparrow yesterday. The baby is like an island surrounded by water. How to define this island? Landmass, geography, surrounded by water. Time. 4:05. The time between drinks of water. How long will this water remain free? The time between now and the baby's time. It never occurred to me, and I know this is obvious. The inside of the uterus is a dark place. Her eyes are developing in darkness, a growing baby not being accountable for a thing. Babies feeling the warmth of water before being cold, living in darkness before watery bodies of the eyes can see. Vision is wet. 3:06. Seabirds high in tree. The house is in a state of shifting. The things inside shifting and growing, and the baby moving. Today, I was sorting through a box of photos. I found the pictures from the mountainside in Japan. I was cutting Yutaka's little sister's hair. The hydrangeas are in the picture. Hydrangeas reminding me of surfaces in personal domestic spaces growing up. Hydrangeas on the kitchen table. Another picture is his mother. Others by the lake. I'm starting an indigo vat to dye fabrics. I like to think that the indigo dyed garments are alive, making a dye studio in the basement where all sentimental stuff gets stored. 3:18. A woman was feeding baby while shopping for food. The kicking inside my belly. Before like an island, now like a fish in a contained body of water. Change occurring rapidly. It's fleeting time, a duration of abundance, and she kicks. My vision only assists so much. I am trying to surrender vision to my hands. When I started to move, I started thinking about my mother. Breasts being like eyes, breasts changing color so that the baby can find food source more easily. My mother losing her eyes to breast cancer. Writing for the sake of communicating with others. The job of a writer editing. Cutting out words. A lined notebook with words going off the lines. From words to drawing to moving. 4:19. My mother is helping me paint the baby room. Before I left, she is taking pictures of my belly, and I tell her to shoot from a high diagonal point. I think that makes a more flattering shot. The body changing, my limbs are squishy. I struggle slightly to find my bones around my middle. I touch to feel the babies moving as I write. Diagonal right below my navel, a thumb's length across my navel left. Stillness for a moment, fuzziness, then feeling more. She's rubbing against me already. Continuing to map a span of time, truthfully, trying to map the change of my body and her body growing. The words and the body meeting in one space. Words like the baby, living in the womb, moving. Moving meaning the connections are growing, mapping the similarities of making a child and making art, insecurity and devaluations of both, the unseen and unquantifiable, needing to go slower to focus and recognize, making sure I follow each movement through.